Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Today I've got a really great friend of mine on, Jenna. I'll introduce you to Jenna in a minute, but at first I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm currently calling you in from. I'm on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation here in Barkindji, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Lord, I'd also like to extend that to any other Aboriginal people that are actually listening to us today, including my guest, Jenna. Hey, Jenna, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, AJ. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Nah, you're welcome.
Hey, cool. Just start off with, who are you? Where are you from?
My name is Jenna Bugmy. I am originally from Broken Hill, New South Wales, where I was born and grew up until I was 18 years of age. My family is the Barkindji people of the Darling River, Yeperenye, New South Wales, and that's from my dad's side. My mum's side is the Nyampa people from Mount Grenfell near Cobar. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you went to school in Broken Hill? Yes. Yeah. While you're at school, how much Aboriginal studies did you learn at school?
None.
None?
None.
No. Do you think over time, has that changed? Do you think your kids are starting to learn a little bit more?
No.
No?
No.
No. Why is that?
I don't know myself. I think sometimes, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I think it's just some people are ashamed of the history of how the Aboriginal people really are still here. I really can't just going by my own personal thing. I just think people are ashamed of our history on how this country was actually come about. So,
Yeah. So you're currently working at Headspace.
Yep.
In Morwell. What's your role?
I'm the Aboriginal social and emotional worker for Headspace. I'm the first Indigenous person to be employed at Headspace in Morwell.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I know. So does that involves working with community?
Yes.
Yeah. What's it like being part of the community, but also having to work with the community?
I haven't really had much time to work with the community, but starting off my role at Headspace, going to organisations to try and collaborate with them has been hard because I'm still known as just a community member and not a Headspace worker.
Yeah. And you're currently studying the Diploma of Community Services?
Yes.
Now, what do you like about community services and the course that you're studying?
Well, at the moment, the course hasn't been running too good. You can't really get in touch with any of the people that help you through the course, that guide you. But I'm trying to get my community services because at the moment, the role that I'm doing is to be working with community, connecting with them, and being just an advocate for the Aboriginal young people here in Latrobe Valley.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just a bit, I've never done the last course I'd done was probably 13 years ago. So, this is the first time I'm in a role that's part of a bigger organisation. Before that, I was just a stay-at-home mum. So just like every other person.
Now, you're a stay-at-home mum, yes, but you have 5 kids.
Yes.
How is it being a mum and working at the same time?
It's been hard trying to, get everything prioritised. It's good that I work for like Headspace. My manager's really good. She always says, your family will always come first, which I like because I do have little kids. So she's a great manager. But just juggling the day-to-day life, having to get up and I'm up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning just to get my kids ready for, their day, like daycare, school. Like I've got 5 kids under 7. The youngest is 6 months old. I've got a very supporting partner, which he takes a lot off my plate. He's a stay-at-home dad. And, we have our differences, but our kids are our main priority, and, making sure they have a good education, have that stable life at home is our main concern. And just working on top of that is just a bonus for me.
Yeah. So we know down in Gippsland in Morwell, there isn't a lot of programs for young Aboriginal people. What would you like to see happen in the future?
There are a few programs now, which is good, but I think a lot of the areas that need to be focused on is there's not enough programs. Whether you're non-Indigenous or Indigenous, our children are still getting into trouble. We're not getting the help that we really need for our kids. Like I've told many people, I'm scared to bring my children up in this life at the moment. I'm scared for my children, which as a mum, you shouldn't be, but even though I'm a mum, I'm a Aboriginal mum.
Yeah. How do you ensure that the schools that your kids are going to go to are going to be culturally safe for your kids?
Well, I actually got asked this question. Now, my oldest son, Jax, he has autism and ADHD. We had the choice of sending you get the choice of sending your kids to, primary school. I actually got faulted for not wanting to send my child to a school that had a lot of Indigenous children, which was my option, because I feel in schools, when you're an Aboriginal child, you're already going to be taught differently, or they're going to let them get away with more things and not focus on their strengths. Like my son is very smart, even though he has autism, and I didn't want them to take that away from him of learning. Yeah. And I've seen it happen a lot.
And Aboriginal kids are also targeted quite a lot as well.
A lot of the time I see kids getting targeted. It's not just from, school kids, or it could even be the teachers. Like sometimes, you get some teachers put in these roles that think, oh, yep, that's just another Indigenous kid. They're not going to get anywhere. Like we don't have to support them because they're not really going to go past high school, which is wrong, because we've got, you're making the choice for our kids. It should be up to our children where they want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So after being a stay-at-home mum, what made you decide I want to go into community services?
Well, as you know, a lot of Aboriginal people go through the ringer of trauma. 2 years ago, January 23, I lost my oldest son. His name was Kaleb. Found him unresponsive. We was in a women's refuge at the time.
Yeah.
And going through the patterns of that, like I met you the next day, I was still basically in shock, still hoping to wake up and that it was just
Yeah.
a bad dream. So he was my inspiration because I'd never wished that upon my worst nightmare. Like, my worst enemy to find their child unresponsive and not being able to do anything.
Yeah.
You're supposed to protect your children from everything and anything. So that was my, main reason for joining it, because I think my son fell through the cracks or not getting help for his depression and mental health.
We see a lot of mental health in community. We see a lot of mental health with young people. What skills? That's all right. What skills can you bring to help young Aboriginal people not end up like Kaleb?
I bring the lived experience. I've been there myself. I've been through the traumas of death. I've been through the traumas of being incarcerated, been through drug addiction, alcoholism. I've fought DHS for 4 years. Like, I've been through a lot in, the last 18 years. And to come out on the other side of that, like, I've been on drug rehabilitation programs on a methadone. I was on that for 12 years. And then after my son passed, I dropped down to 30 milligrams of methadone and changed over to a monthly injection.
Yeah.
I was six months pregnant at the time when I changed over to that. And 4 days before I had my daughter last year, I had my last injection, and I haven't been on the program since November last year. So I'm basically off everything.
Yeah. You are as you know, you're one of the most resilient people that I know after everything that you've kind of been through. And as you mentioned, I saw you the day after Kaleb had passed.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that self-resilience with everything that you've been through?
I come from strong people. Like, we might give up for a bit, think to what we deserve for these things, bad things, to always happen to us. Take each day as it comes. But after he passed, it sort of just lit a fire in me that I couldn't stomp out. And, I applied for one job and I got knocked back for that. That was through an Aboriginal organisation, and they told me my trauma was too new.
Yeah.
It was 12 months before, like after that, I applied for this job, and I applied for this job that I'm in now exactly a week later. I didn't even fill out all the paperwork. They rang me and just asked, like, are you still interested in this job? I'm like, yeah, I just couldn't do the video thing with my phone. But yeah, I had an interview a week after online, and yeah, it just started from there. I've just waited probably 7 months to get into the job. I had to jump through a lot of hoops with, being incarcerated and how long I've been out of trouble for. It was just a lot of hoops. Like, I was honest. I'm an honest person when it comes to, what I've been through. Like, police check's going to bring it up anyways. But, just with that, just perseverance of trying. Like, I always been taught, like, you'd never take no for an answer. Like, if you want something so bad, you got to go after it. It's not just going to fall in your lap. So that's what I did, and I got hired with no experience, just lived experience, which nowadays is a blessing to have. Like, even though it's not a blessing at the time that everything happens, but you know, to get this sort of job, like, my lived experience overcome many certificates because I can always get that certification.
Yeah, and you're in the process of doing that, and you have, as you mentioned, you've got a very supportive team around you to
Yes.
ensure that you stay safe as well.
Yes.
Yeah. What are some stereotypes that exist for Aboriginal young people, and how can we break some of those?
I've had this conversation a lot with everything that's going on online. Not just young people, but every Indigenous person gets put under the same umbrella that we don't work, we get free money, we're not going to do nothing with our lives, we're just going to be drug addicts and alcoholics and criminals, which, you know, I get offended by it. Yes, I've been incarcerated. I've been a lot of those things, but I've come out on the other side a better person. You know, just reflecting on the things that I've been through, you know, I can advocate for people that want to change because I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, it's just every day we are stereotyped, whether it's on the internet or out in public places. Like, you know, it's wrong because we can say some things, but it's only if something's said at us first.
Yeah.
But we're always getting seen as, oh, you pull the racist card, like, stop using the race card, like, we're all one. No, we are not.
Yeah.
And we haven't been for a long time. Like, it's not going to change if no one wants to change with it. Like, you know, we're here and we're always going to be here.
Yeah.
It's just that we've got a voice now and nobody likes it. So
I know. I love how you do use your voice to talk about lived experience so much, because I think a lot of our young people, they do feel isolated and they feel like this has only happened to them. And I think you're giving it a face to go, well, it happened to me. I've been through all this and look where I am now.
And I'm not going to be judgmental. Like, they can go to some places where, you know, just look and they think that, oh, you know, this person thinks they're better than me because, you know, they haven't lived in my shoes, or, you know, where if they come to me, I'm not going to, like, I've been asked a lot of times, like, where do you draw the line? Like, if you want to build trust with somebody, it's always to try and put what you can, lay it what you can out, because they're not going to get the best outcome if you're dishonest.
Yeah.
You know, we like truth. We're truth tellers. We tell it how it is, and that's how I tell it. That's how I see it.
Yeah. No bullshit, no airy fairy, fluffy magic wand.
Not everything's all rainbows, like, you know.
Yeah. I got a couple of questions for you, and one of it is losing a son at the age that he was, where he was just in his early teenage years.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to the younger kids about having an older brother?
Well, what I did was, when my son's funeral was on, I actually got it recorded, just so that I had that for when my kids do get to the age where they might want to know. They know about, like, they've been to funerals, like, you know, the Aboriginal, like, you go to a lot. You go to more funerals than weddings.
Yeah.
The way we see it. But yeah, we got it recorded just so we have that for the kids, just to show, you know, he's had an older brother.
Yeah.
I've also got I got ties made up for him, so it was the same ties as what the pallbearers wore to his funeral. I got extras done. I got 4 extra done, so lucky I did, because I had another boy after my son died. So, and you know, they know they've got an older brother. They know they had an older brother. I keep using it as if he's still here. That's just me.
Yeah.
You know, whenever people ask me, like, how many kids do you got? I always say, you know, I've got 6 children.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have 5. I've got 5 alive, yes.
Yes.
But I've got 6 children. But just explain it to them when they get older. I think the main thing is to be honest.
Yeah.
And to let them know, you know, that he loved them. We feel connections to people sometimes that we have only known for a short while, and I think that's just how it is. Like, we're like, Aboriginals are very spiritual people. If you have that good connection with someone, it doesn't matter if you met them for 5 minutes, you know, you know straight away. Like, it's just, I think at the moment I can't have that conversation with them.
Yeah.
They're just at that age, but they know that he's, you know, in heaven.
Yeah.
And that he's looking down on them. I really think that he visits them. My 1-year-old, he sees photos of him and he kisses them. It's like he's met him. So, and he'd never, like, I was 16 weeks pregnant when my son passed. So he, sees photos and he's sort of just, you know, like he's seen him before. So it gives, you know, them sort of things. It fills my heart, but it also breaks it at the same time. You know, I got to get up every day. You know, my days can change. I can be happy one day, I can be depressed, but my kids give me that strength.
Yeah.
And
you've developed very different coping strategies now than the coping strategies you would have had before with the drug and alcohol aspects. What are some things that you do to keep yourself healthy and to keep yourself mentally healthy?
I talk about it. I was a person to keep things to myself a lot. And that, you know, it really, I was overthinking things and thinking what could I have done differently, or how things could be, or, you know, it was just all those questions. Those questions still come into my head, but it's not all the time. It's, you know, around special occasions, or just when I feel really down, or, you know, like they say, a scent or a song reminds you of them. And I get that, like, a lot. And just, you know, being a mum that has lost someone, and I think, like, every mum can relate, it's the hardest thing that you will ever go through in your life. You know, it's, you watch them grow, you know, you gave them life, and not to see that life continue, or where that life would be now. Like, I laugh about things sometimes, like, you know, if my son was still here, I'd probably be a grandmother. So, you know, just, it's more just the little things, you know, would he have had a license? Would he have had a job? Like, he did have a job. He went for 3 hours and he thought $40 was a lot of money, so he quit.
Yeah.
So, you know, and he only did that just to, I think, just to say that he did it. But, you know, he found something that he loved, which was AFL. He was there for every training, every game day. He would be there for the under 15s. He even played the grade up, so he was playing 2 games every weekend. So he, you know, he loved it, and we got asked many times, like, has he played before? Like, has he been playing since he was young? And the only thing we could give him was, like, he's played 2 games, like one with his school, and that was it. Like, one in high school. He hasn't done it outside of school. He hasn't grown up with it. Like, I'm a rugby person, so, you know, when he went to AFL, I'm not,
rugby.
I go for Queensland. So, we, you know, we're big rugby people, and when he decided to take up AFL, well, we could see why. There's no rugby out here. But we couldn't understand the game. We'd go and watch and we wouldn't know what was happening. Like, he'd have to explain after he'd finished, like, you know, this is what happened. And he had to continuously explain things that happened. So, you know.
Did he have any role models or any people that he looked up to in football?
No. The only person really that was like a role model to him that played footy was Willie Dow. Kaleb used to spend a lot of time with Willie and his partner Cody, because Caleb's best mate Narzeli was living with him, so that's where he'd be all the time, you know. But when it come to any sort of role models, you know, he really didn't have many. Like, it was just Willie and my partner that was the only men that was around him. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? When you were growing up, or even now, do you have any role models?
My role models were my mum and dad. Like, my dad, he passed when I was 14, but he was a big community person and a big family guy. He done a lot for our community from where we come from. My mum, she had a hand in that, as well as my auntie Wanda. She's sadly passed as well. But, you know, they done programs when there was a, you know, like a wave of petrol sniffing and, you know, kids getting into a lot of trouble. They all started a program. My mum, my dad, auntie Wanda, Bucky, Colleen, they all, started a program to, you know, get kids off the street. It just started as just a, you know, just somewhere for the kids to hang out. We was, you know, playing games of rugby or just going there, spending, you know, just having a gathering, like yarning, and, you know, it was so successful that, you know, we started going on camps, and after all that, like, I like, to me, I was, a lot of the times I was told that I was a lucky kid. And that was coming from other Aboriginal people saying, you know, like, you grew up in a good home. Like, you never had to, like, I always had a bed to sleep in, a warm bed. I always had food in my cupboards. My mum and dad worked, you know. I grew up in a good home, but I seen a lot of things that, you know, or well, heard. When I got to the age where I started seeing things, everything completely stopped. But, you know, I've grown up just the way every other Aboriginal kid has. Yeah, I did have a bed to sleep in every night. I had food. My parents were strict,
Yeah.
you know, but my parents also took in other kids as well. You know, like I had one cousin had a disability and he would never listen to anyone except my dad.
Yeah.
Like he used to tell everyone, like, you're not my boss. My uncle's my boss. My other cousin, Desiree, she moved in with us. Like, you know, when my dad passed, I had to help my mum with like my disabled sister. She had cerebral palsy. She passed 6 weeks after I had my son. So, you know, there's been a lot of trauma from a very young age. So, you know, I feel like I grew up in a family with, there was 3 of us, but my brother was incarcerated when I was 12 years old. Then I lost my dad at 14. My sister died just after I turned 18 and had my first child. I was a single mum. So I had to learn a lot of things quickly. I had support from my mum. So around the time that all that happened, I sort of just fell off the face of the earth and started drinking a bit. And my mum was looking after my son for the first 3 to 4 months of his life. I just dropped out. I zoned out as a mum. I was in that grieving stage and not talking to anybody about it. You know, my mum tried to get me to talk to somebody when I was 14, like 15, and I went once and I never went back. And I think not going back, at like if I would have went back, it would have saved me a lot of the things that I've gone through over the years, like with the drug addiction, the alcoholism, not having that person to vent to because I wouldn't talk to my family about it. But now I'm open. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody. I'll tell my story. I don't care if they're going to cry about it or I don't like sympathy, but I just acknowledge the things that I've been through because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah. And you are such a beautiful Aboriginal spiritual woman that the stuff that you've been through is not holding you back, that you are moving forward, that you are taking huge strides in making change. And when I talk to you, like off camera, and when I talk to you, because I know you, you know, you talk about how things can be different for the kids of the future. Because sometimes we can't change exactly what's happening at the moment, even though we want to, but you're also a visionary as well about what could be done. How could we do this better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it takes like they say, it takes a village to raise. Yeah, that's it. I've done, you know, like I've had a supportive partner. His mum has been good support. My mum, like even though she wasn't living with me, like I used to call her all the time.
Yeah.
I think all the changes that I've made over the years was because of my kids. All my kids have been born at times when I needed it. They were like a godsend. Like every child that I've had has been born at a time where there's been trauma, like, or after the trauma, and they've just changed my perspective on the way I've seen things. Like having a child in care for 4 years and thinking, you know, not going to be able to get them back. Like, I know what it's like to drop off, like thinking, you know, everything you're doing is wrong, or you're not getting anywhere. But, you know, I'm not the type to give up. Like, I will keep trying until I get an outcome that works for me. And that's what I did with, like, DHS was my biggest hurdle. You know, we've got that many kids in care. It's crazy. And a lot of the time, some kids are getting taken just for being Aboriginal. Their parents, some parents ain't doing anything wrong. You know, it's crazy. Like, I don't know.
That systemic stereotyping that still exists.
Yes.
It's been there for a number of years, and it's still there with some of the workers that are there today. Hopefully it's going to change in the future, but we're still stuck in that place where you are right. 50% of our kids are in out-of-home care right now. That's a huge amount of people.
It is. And a lot of the time it's because, you know, some organisations ain't working with the family. Like, you know, you get some workers say, you know, tell me the truth. Like, tell me the truth. Like, I've been railroaded myself. Like, when my son was born, when Jax was born, I was actually railroaded by the department. I didn't even know if my son was alive. I got called in. I was actually going to see my son, like, because I had his birth, that when I woke up, like, that was the first thing I wanted to do, because they're like, you know, the doctor said to me, we've got 20 minutes to get him out. And I was 32 weeks pregnant at the time. So, you know, that was scary for me. And then as soon as I, like, come awake and I was already in the ward, I woke up 12 hours later. So I was knocked out for 12 hours. I already had the department sitting waiting for me. And it was sort of a sigh of relief. Like, even though they were there, it was a sigh of relief, because I'm like, well, they wouldn't be here if you didn't make it.
Yeah.
But it was just a whole conversation that went from there that sort of, you know, it was just tell us the truth, you know. We want to help you. We want to work with you. Yeah. So I sort of laid everything out on the table, and then, no, we're taking you for an order. So, you know, it's just them sort of things. Like, if people want to support our people, do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know, not just tick boxes, you know. It doesn't work like that with us. Like, if you're going to, like, we depend on people when they say they're going to do something. Like, you have to follow through with it. Do not overpromise if you cannot do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got two final questions for you. One is, if I could give you $1 zillion and a magic wand, and you know I've got a magic wand because you've seen it before, and you could fix something in Aboriginal affairs down in Gippsland, what would you do?
I would create a space for all Aboriginal children to go, whether it's, you know, giving them somewhere to stay overnight, somewhere that they can just be themselves, you know, have something for them to do. Like, there's nothing for people to do out here. Like, it's a wonder why there's so much criminal activity, because, like, it's not just our kids that are doing it. every child because they're bored.
Yeah.
There's nothing for kids to do. Like I'd hire somewhere to just for kids to go, a safe space just for them to hang out and be themselves and, play games or take them out on country. Like, it's what we're missing, and it's, we need it for our kids. Like, it's not just in Latrobe, it's all over Australia. Like, our kids are the future, and if we don't work on them now, it's just going to be the same
cycle over and over.
Yeah, which, people are put in positions to break them cycles or to at least make change. If you're in them positions, start making change, because it's always good to talk, but we need actions to actually see, not numbers on a board to say, yep, we got this and we're doing this. But if it's not working, it's not working. Like, you need something that's going to work for everyone. We should be able to be ourselves, and go and seek help when we need it, and have things for our kids to feel and be who they are and not have to hide who they are.
Yeah. I'm just watching the time. So my last question to you is, what would you like people to walk away with from our yarn this morning?
From our yarn, I'd say that if anyone, is struggling or dealing with anything, it's not, don't be ashamed of it. Like, everybody needs help. Everyone needs support. Whether it's you talk to a friend, because maybe sometimes your family's not going to listen, or seek help.
Sometimes your family's the problem.
That's it. And it's always good. Like, I work at Headspace in Morwell, and it's always good to go mainstream, because sometimes you've got family members in some Aboriginal organisations. Like, now, a lot of mainstream places do have Aboriginal workers in there, and if you feel comfortable, like, go and reach out to somebody. Like, there's always help there. Like, I don't know. I just feel that a lot of our kids think it's not a big thing. It's shameful. Like, it's going to end up eating away at you until you either make that change. Like they say, like, we either end up in jail or in the ground.
Yeah.
And that's not good for us, because, we've got support out there. It's just asking for it, and people ain't going to know that you need the help if you don't seek it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Look, I want to say thank you for hanging with me this afternoon. Always a pleasure to talk to you. You know how much I care and support all the work that you do. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing, especially the stories around Kaleb as well.
Yeah, well, it's it's something that's been swept under the carpet, which, my son was a person. He was an Aboriginal young man, and his story did fall through the cracks. Like, he didn't get the help that he needed, even though I was asking for it, but I didn't have a right as a parent. They told me that my child was old enough to make the decisions whether he needed the help. He was 14, so I don't understand how a 13, 14-year-old child can say, I don't need the help, like, I'm okay.
Yeah, when clearly everyone around can see them struggling.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, it takes a lot of courage for people to get help, and it takes a lot for the parent to seek help for their child. And if someone's crying out for help, help them. Do your best. If you can't do it, pass them on to somebody that can pick them up straight away, because when we want the help, we want it there and then. We don't want to be sitting on waiting lists for 3 or 4 months, because by that time we're going to think they don't give a shit about it. So, you know, sorry for the words, but,
that's right.
You know, when we want help, we want it straight away, like act on it within the first week when we come to you, like, because we are crying out for it, and we are people who do not like to ask for help.
I know. Yeah, that's true. So, Jenna, I want to say thank you very much for joining me today. Guys, I want to say thank you for listening to the podcast. I'll see you guys at the next podcast. And thanks, Jenna, for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, AJ. I'll talk to you next week.